Hello and welcome to the Ellen Maid Book Club. Today I want to do a little bit of a mini wrap-up, I guess, or like I read a couple of books and I want to talk about them. I've been seeing so many challenges and prompt lists and stuff for March, which I think is great and a lot of fun if you think that that's fun. I'm the kind of person who, like, when I see a list like that or like I see a challenge, I can very easily get sucked into it and feel like I have to find a book for every prompt, and like I have to find a book that checks that prompt from that list and that prompt from that list, and it kind of becomes like too much pressure for me. It makes me sort of lose sight of what I actually want to read and why I actually got back into reading. I did not get back into reading to feel more pressure. I got back into reading to, you know, find my love for reading again and find books that I love and authors that I love and, you know, just spend my time doing something that I enjoy. So as much as I like appreciate the fact that all of these challenges exist and that people create them, I feel like I have participated enough now with these mysteries that I've read, and you know, that's it for me. I didn't go all in for this challenge either, but the one that I did look into a little bit more was the March Mystery Madness tag challenge thing. I just read a few mysteries that I have been wanting to read anyway, and they sort of happened to fit a few of the prompts. Another thing that I was thinking about, just about how Booktube affects your reading, or can affect your reading, or can influence your reading in all kinds of ways. I'm really happy I joined Booktube, and it's motivating me to read more in a good way, like in a positive way, because I feel like I have somewhere to talk about the books. But I can just see that I immediately fall into the systems that are in place. Like, you do a monthly wrap-up of the books that you've read, that calendar month, and it's just so funny to me because I would never think about what month I read a book in before, or how many books I read in a month. I don't measure my reading like that at all, and I just think it's so funny that I just immediately doing a February wrap-up video, and like now I have it in my head that I have to do a March wrap-up video instead of just talking about the books that I've read when I feel like talking about them. And I know that not all people do this, but you know, I'm just reflecting on myself and my own the way I just fall into it. And it's helpful. I mean, it's very, if you have to invent the wheel, you know, for yourself, as soon as you start, that's difficult. It's a lot easier to just, okay, well, everybody's doing this, so I can do that too, and it's easy to get started that way. But I feel like I might do that going forward because it's easy, but I also just want to shake the feeling of being stuck in that, because it doesn't mean anything to me. It really doesn't mean anything to me how many books I read in a certain month. And like the rate I'm reading at right now, I'm halfway through March and I've read 3 books already, and almost 2 more. And I just feel like if I keep going at this rate the whole month, then there are going to be too many books for me to talk about in one video at the end. And I don't think I'm going to remember what I read at the beginning of the month if I wait until the end. You know what I mean? Anyway, let's get into the books that I read. The first one is The Maid by Nita Prose. And I figured this could fit the first prompt on the March Mystery Madness prompt list, which was dressed to the nines, formal wear on the cover. So I think that's formal wear. They might be in their work clothes, but I mean, that's formal, isn't it? So in The Maid, we follow the maid, whose name is Molly. She is a maid at a hotel, the Regency Grand Hotel, and she comes to work on a regular Monday and finds a VIP guest dead in his bed. And yeah, that's where the story starts. Molly is a very kind person and she's very good at her job. She's very good with rules and details. She's not the best at social relationships, reading social cues, reading between the lines. She's very literal. It doesn't say anywhere that she's on the autism spectrum, but it's kind of obvious that she is, or that her mind works in a similar way. So this is a cozy mystery. There are some dark themes in it, but for the most part, it's pretty lighthearted and heartwarming and yeah, cozy mystery. And I liked it. I enjoyed it. I liked Molly as a character, and I like the rest of the characters as well. But Molly is very sweet and she tries very hard to be a good person, a good human. And she does her best to understand things that are going on around her, and she's very sort of understanding and forgiving toward people who might not do the best things. So it's very heartwarming in that way, and sort of, you know, makes you feel like there's hope for humanity. Like there are people who want good things for other people. So that was a nice part of the experience, I thought. It's not all bad. And I think the story was good as well. It's a good mystery. It's not like the answers are not obvious from the beginning. And it unfolds at a good pace. It was very sweet and cozy, and it felt like, you know, a teddy bear going on an adventure. It was kind of a children's book, but for adults. Like, it's definitely not for children. But it did have that feeling of like, yeah, we're just going on an adventure together and nothing bad is really going to happen. But it's like, you know, suspenseful enough, I guess. The only thing I really had any kind of negative reaction to was a couple of places where it felt like Molly was written like she was a little bit stupid, and she's not stupid. She's just very literal, and I don't know, there was just a couple of things that I feel like, well, if she understood that expression or understood that thing, she would probably understand this too, but maybe she wouldn't, and you know, maybe that's me and my prejudice, I don't know. But that's the only thing that I can think of that stood out to me that I didn't like, you know? And yeah, it's not a literary masterpiece, I don't think, but if you're looking for a cozy mystery that, you know, has an intriguing story and cozy characters and cozy relationships, I think this does that very well. I liked it. Just got very dark out all of a sudden. Anyways, the next book I read was The Maidens by Michaelides, I think his name is pronounced. I had high hopes for this one, which always sets you up for disappointment, and unfortunately I was disappointed by this. It has so much promise, like it has a good premise and it has everything that it needs to be good, but I have many issues with this book. On the back it says, "You are invited to join the Maidens, a secretive set of the brightest, most captivating students, the group from which each victim will be chosen." Like, that's a good blurb thing. Like, yes, please let me enter this secretive set of captivating students. Like, let me in on this secret society at Cambridge University. It didn't deliver what I hoped. Let me explain what it's about, I guess. So in this book we follow Mariana, who is a psychologist in London. She gets a phone call from her niece, who is at Cambridge, where Mariana also used to study. And there's been a murder, and Mariana goes to Cambridge to sort of comfort her niece and be a support to her. And then she starts suspecting a professor at the university to be the killer in this murder. And that's all very nice and well. On the back it also says, seamlessly weaves in Greek mythology, psychology, and murder. And it just did not deliver on those things.
It can't. And I can't. And it's...
Like, it did deliver murder and psychology, but I'm not really sure it seamlessly weaved in Greek mythology. It was just... It seemed far-fetched. Everything seemed far-fetched, and the writing did not agree with me at all. Or rather, I didn't like the writing. I usually fold down the corners for quotes that I think are really good, and in this case, I have so many corners folded for things that I thought were really bad. First of all, there are so many like dashes in the text. I counted how many there were on one page at some point, and there were like 17 on one page. Like, nobody needs that many dashes. Like, just put a comma or just skip it. Like, it doesn't do anything. It's just not necessary to put that many dashes. Like, you don't need to jerk a pause into my brain. Like, I can pace my sentence fine, thank you. I'll just give you some examples of stuff that I was like, well, that wasn't very great. So the first one is on page 10, and it's about Mariana's parents, and it says, she never met her father's parents, and he rarely mentioned them. His father was a sailor, and the less said about his mother, the better. She worked at the docks, he said, with such a look of shame, Mariana thought she must have been a prostitute. And I just feel like he could have skipped the last part. Like, he doesn't have to, it's just so on the nose. Like, it could have just said something about, you know, her working at the docks and him saying it with a look of shame on his face. Like, you don't, and we can deduce that for ourselves. Maybe that's just personal preference, but I felt it was a little bit on the nose, and, you know, it could have been done a little prettier. But then the next one is on page 13, so it's just like flipping the page. And here it says about another character. It says, and yet, despite all this trauma, he was a remarkably intelligent person. Which just, like, are you suggesting that trauma makes a person stupid? Like, because then we're gonna have some differences, okay? I'm not a native English speaker, so let me know if you think this is good or bad. It says, she bought a chocolate ice cream and was engrossed in eating it. Here's another one that just messed with my mind because the time is mentioned twice and it doesn't need to be. It says, at 10 o'clock the next morning, she went to meet the professor. She arrived at the garden as the chapel clock struck 10. And now I'm just, did you go at 10 or did you arrive at 10 or... It could have just been, the next morning she went to meet the professor. She arrived at the garden as the chapel clock struck 10. No confusion. The next morning and she arrived at 10. Yeah, so those were just a few examples of how the writing was a little bit annoying to me. And I noticed it early, like I said, but I was just like, well, I can live with that. Just as long as the story is good, because I really wanted to know what the story was going to be. I had really high hopes. And it was, like, it's a decent story, and it's, like, the pacing is good. It makes you want to keep reading, and, you know, there are a lot of suspects and a lot of possible outcomes in this. There are a lot of female characters, which I appreciated, and, you know, not all of the experts are male, so I just kind of wanted to give him a chance, I guess, just out of solidarity. But then I felt like they weren't that great. If you're gonna do female characters to sort of show, you know, women can do it too, then you have to make them good. Like you can't, they don't have to be perfect or, you know everything and get everything right, but like they need to be a little bit better than this. Other than that, I feel like the pacing was good. It's suspenseful and, you know, I wanted to keep reading. The chapters are short and it's, you know, constantly evolving. So that was good, and it had a really like a creepy, stalkery feeling to it, reading it. I don't think it delivered on the Greek mythology aspect of it, and I also wasn't at all invited to join the Maidens. Like it's not, you're never in that. That's just there. But like I, as a reader, am not in that at all. And I thought I would be seeing that a lot more. And the Greek mythology is also just like anecdotal. Like it doesn't, it's not, I didn't feel that. I didn't feel it. It sort of reminded me of the Da Vinci Code, which I love. It's also that like fast pace, and there's a person who comes into the mystery with his like professional knowledge. So in the Da Vinci Code, it's symbolism, and here it's psychology. Like Mariana is a psychologist, and she comes into this murder mystery with that knowledge and that perspective. So that should have been interesting, but it just wasn't. In the Da Vinci Code, there's just so much more of that like religion and symbolism and history that you're just, it's just so immersive. You feel like you're in it. And in this book, I just didn't feel that. It was just like mentioned. I don't know. I feel like this book is somewhere between the Da Vinci Code and The Secret History. And so if you like both of those books, maybe this is perfect for you. I didn't enjoy The Secret History that much, and unfortunately I didn't enjoy this very much either. I mean, it was okay, but that's a 2-star rating for me. So, unfortunate. Okay, so we have light back on from the outsides. The last mystery I read was The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. And this one fit the prompt number 5, which was one for Janelle. I didn't know who she was before I saw this prompt, but I looked at her channel and saw the video that I think her son posted about her passing. So I just thought that was a nice thing to do to honor her and, you know, read an Agatha Christie book sort of to her memory. I'm not going to go into detail about the plot, but it's a murder mystery. This man called Roger Ackroyd is murdered, like it says in the English title. And the narrator is the doctor who lives in this smaller town village called Dr. Shepherd. Not that Dr. Shepherd, another older Dr. Shepherd. And he sort of becomes the right hand to Detective Hercule Poirot, and they try to solve this murder together and interview everyone and find out all the details necessary to find the murderer. That's what it's about. And this was a first for me. Like, it's the first time I've read anything by Agatha Christie, and I can definitely see why her books are so popular and how they have sort of stood the test of time and why they are classics. That being said, I read this in Swedish, and I think that the translation is from 1964. The book is written in 1929, I want to say. 26. I think the translation was done in 1964, and so I feel like the translation would maybe have been done a little bit differently today than in 1964. So, I mean, the language in this is supposed to be old school, like it's supposed to be, I'm sure if you read it in English, it's older version of English, but I don't have a problem with like watching Downton Abbey or something, which is sort of the same time period. That just sounds natural, but reading this there were a lot of Swedish words that nobody would ever say anymore, and like translations that were a bit weird to me. But the story in itself is definitely interesting. There are a lot of characters to keep track of, a lot of times and details, which it's supposed to be. Yeah, I have no complaints about it at all. I think it's a great mystery. It's a very entertaining story. The relationships between the doctor and his sister is very funny. And there are a lot of like commentary that's just, a bit of sarcastic, which I liked. It definitely deserves a 5-star rating. Like, it's a classic. My opinion can't take away from that. It's just, I think my experience of it was more of like a 3-star. Like, it was good. I can see its merits. I enjoyed it. But it wasn't anything more than that for me. And I think mostly because of the translation, and yeah, it just wasn't as enjoyable as I think it would have been if I had read it in English. I think that's everything I have to say about these books for now. If you have read any of these books, please let me know in the comments what you thought of them. Like, have you read The Maidens? Did you also find it somewhere between The Da Vinci Code and The Secret History? Or like, what was your thoughts on this? Did it meet your expectations? And also the murder of Roger Ackroyd, or like the language, I guess, in general of Agatha Christie in English. Like, do you find it, if you're a native English speaker, do you find the language in Agatha Christie's book outdated or just old-timey? Does it sound good to you, or does it sound outdated and weird and in a strange way? Like, if you're watching Downton Abbey, they're still sort of posh and, they speak in a different way that we would now, but it still doesn't sound weird. But this sounded weird to me in Swedish. So let me know if I should read Agatha Christie in English instead next time, or if you think that it's the same. I also wanted to talk about what I'm reading next, but I haven't really decided yet. I've started listening to Yellowface. I haven't gotten very far, but I'm enjoying that so far. I also ordered a bunch of books that I'm really excited about and I really want to get to. And they were supposed to come today at the latest, but they've been delayed, and so now they're not coming until next week. I'm feeling very impatient, and I just wanna have them in my hands right now. But I'll show you them when they arrive, and we'll do a little unboxing or haul or something like that. Yeah, I think that's it for now. So have a very good rest of your day, and see you in the next one. Bye. And it's gonna be too much for me to remember. Like, I can't remember that far ahead or that late. That I can't remember by the end of, I can't remember. It's too much. So